Hello everyone, I am Rod and I am the game design instructor for the Academy of Entertainment Arts over at Dixie Hollands High School. If you are one of my students, it's Mr. Flowers to you, and welcome to this video tutorial.
Hello everyone. Today we're going to go over how to make a mouth box for our character. I'm actually going to go over a few different ways of designing these just because there aren't really any good tutorials out there on YouTube, and I've looked. I've been doing this for a number of years and I just don't see any good methods of how to create a mouth box. I'm going to go over a few different ways, from very simple to more complex, kind of like the way this one is here. And okay. So let's get started. I'm going to jump over into Photoshop. And what I'm doing when I make my mouth box is trying to determine what my character's teeth are going to be like. For that, I always do some research. So if I jump down here to Chrome, you can see I have a list of human teeth. That's all I put up here in the little description. And it's important to look at what teeth look like, just because we all have this kind of preconceived notion in the back of our heads that teeth are just kind of square and boxy or whatever. But if you look at human teeth, they kind of round off at the flat edge and then they curve back, kind of like a corn kernel. See that? And then the upper teeth are larger than the lower teeth. For example, let's go down to, there's one on here with like an open mouth here. This one's pretty good. And the number of teeth are the same from the top and the bottom. So still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 there, and you still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 here. Yet the top ones are indeed larger than the lower mouth. So you can go through here, you can pick a mouth that you really want to model to, or you can model to your own mouth. I'm just using this as like a frame of reference so that I can draw my own teeth. I'm going to jump down to Photoshop, and I'm going to create a new document here. Alright, this doesn't have to be too huge. I'm just going to make this, I don't know, 320 and 128. I can do this in pixels. I'm going to have my resolution set to 300, and my background for now will be transparent. I'll just hit OK. So let's pretend that this is going to be my layout for my teeth, and all I'm going to do is draw what my teeth are going to be like. So I'm going to grab a brush. I'm just going to do my outlines here. If you ever look at like a dentist x-ray of teeth, we're going to lay these out pretty flat. There's probably a good one in here somewhere. There's one. So we're going to make sort of like a panoramic view of the mouth on how the teeth are going to lay out. And you only really need to do one side of the mouth, because we can always mirror it. So you have like the left side or right side and top and bottom. So I'm going to start with my incisor, and I'm going to kind of curve off the bottom, but I'm going to keep it relatively flat. And then kind of like that corn kernel, I'm going to curve it up. And for my bottom teeth, I kind of have the same deal, but the incisor is not quite as large. I'll do that a different way. And my next tooth on here is your secondary incisor, or your eye tooth. And if you look at those, if you look in this picture here, that eye tooth is about half the size of the first incisor, but it's more round. I'm going to make some space here, and I go round it And I will go ahead and cap that off, that's fine. The next one is I'm going to do the one down here. Now the one on the bottom is about the same width as the first one. So we have the first incisor, and then we have the second here, and they're the same size. If we look on a more natural mouth here, you can see that they are the same size, these first four. So I can draw it again, or I can just copy this and move it over. That's up to you. I'll just draw a new one, just to have some variation. Next one on the list would be the canine, and the canine is very thin, but it also comes to a point. So I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to kind of point this off just a little bit. I'm not going to do like a vampire teeth or a tooth, but I will give it a little bit of a sharper edge, and then I will still bring that corn kernel shape up. And if we look over here, grab. And that's what we have here. We have that, it comes around and then hits that edge, and we still have that corn kernel shape going up into the mouth, or into the gum line. And then the bottom row, same kind of deal. Now on my mouth, my bottom canines have a sharper edge than my upper canines, and that's just me noticing how my mouth works. Now the next tooth is going to be the premolar. So that's the first molar you get before you get to your last two primary molars in your wisdom tooth. And that thing is rounded off kind of like this tooth, but it has an internal shape to it. I'm going to show you that as I go through. So this is going to be kind of round with a little bit of a point. And it goes up like this. Still has that corn kernel shape, but the inside of this tooth, if I were to look at the inside of the tooth, it's kind of shaped like this. We have the one edge on the outside, and then you have an edge on the inside, and the tooth is separated kind of like this, and it has some flat area kind of in here, kind of like a molar would, because it's a premolar, but it's not like a full molar, so it's got this little round space on the inside. And I'll show you that on here. Let's go up. That'll work. So here we go for our first molar, or sorry, premolar, and you can see, it's a really good picture here, but I'll look at this one. So you have your canine, and then right after the canine, you have this premolar that has an outer edge, and there's a little pocket in the middle. And then you start getting back into your next set of molars here. And then you have your primary molars, and then your wisdom tooth. And then the bottom is kind of set up the same way. So we have our, call them your lateral incisors, but these are kind of like another premolar, if you think about it that way. And while that's important is when we start making solid teeth, you'll want to match that. All right. So this one is, oops. So this one's kind of pointy on the bottom. I'm going to come back down. Then my next one is going to be, we can do a second premolar. You can just copy this one. I'm just going to leave that there, and I'm going to start my primary molars now. A primary molar is going to be a little bit wider and longer than a standard tooth. So we're going to go down. I'm going to kind of give it some shape. But it still has that corn kernel curve upward into the gum line, so we have to have that. And I'll do the same thing for the bottom row. Now, depending on how far back into the mouth you're going to be able to see on the player, you might want to make all of the teeth. For this, I'm just going to make a band that we can use and it'll wrap around. There's that one. And then I'm going to just move these back and I'm going to copy from my other row of premolars. So I'm going to go inside of my premolars here. I'm just going to separate these off. And I'll just pull those back. Okay. Now, if you look at teeth, I'm going to call that here from my shape, but if you look at teeth, they're bunched pretty close together. So for this, we're just going to create a projection onto a plane to create a simulated row of teeth. So bunching these up as close as you can get them to simulate a natural mouth is going to be kind of key to how this works. So I have some gaps here. So go ahead and take the time to put these close together. And as you're doing this, if you find that once you adjust your spacing, that you have enough room. I'm going to merge these two layers down. If you find that you have enough room to add a tooth, go ahead. So like if I move this molar up, I do have enough room to probably add another molar in there. Could probably squeeze one back in here. And you are more than welcome to rotate these. Like this one I could rotate and move or whatever. I'm not going to, but you are the artist, so you can design your mouth any way that you like. If your character happens to have vampire teeth, you can make the canines pointy. If it's, a creature or whatever that has razor blades, you can add some artistic flair. And I do have some room here, so I'm going to add a tooth. Don't give me no attitude. I don't really have enough room here to add another molar, but I will just try to squeeze one in. And there we go. I have my row of teeth. And I'm going to add some gums. So I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm just going to make this as a gum line. And if you want, you're welcome to pull in a picture and set that up for your gum line. I'm just going to paint one on. Gums are about that color. I'm not going to go too crazy in the highlights just because I want to keep the video short. But I will fill in between my teeth. And since this is on a separate layer, it's okay if you paint inside because we're going to fill the teeth with a like an eggshell tooth white. Now, depending on if the person has like gingivitis or whatever, their gums might look different. So gums that are really puffy and swollen are sick, and gums that are not so puffy are healthier. But the gum comes up and it hugs the tooth. So we're going to try to emulate that as best as possible here. Okay. Now I'm going to go fill in my teeth with a color that will be tooth-like. And that'll be like eggshell white would be a good one. Grab. So here would be white, and then eggshell is kind of like an off-white toward the yellow. Now that I have my color, I'm going to go to a new layer and paint my color on. You should go ahead and name these. I'm going to call this tooth color. And these will be teeth, and this will be gums. And I'm just going to use my teeth layer as a reference to how I'm going to paint my teeth. Teeth don't really have this black outline unless they have cavities, so I'm just going to color over this on my layer here. Now I am painting on the new layer, not the teeth layer. This is the teeth color layer. And it's okay if you have it uneven in some areas, but if you look at teeth, they do have varying shapes. So like you might have that corn kernel shape, but it might bow out some in some areas. It might be more rigid or jagged in others. No two teeth are created equal. Just remember that. It's like the teeth on the left side of my mouth are not the same as the teeth on the right side of my mouth. They are shaped slightly different. My right canine is sort of twisted toward the left of my mouth, and my left canine is straight and it's rounder than the right canine, so it's weird. But that's just how the body does its own, asymmetry. So you've seen me paint these first 5. I'm gonna do like a cut on the video, and then these will just automatically paint in. I'm pretty sure you get the idea from this point. And then we're going to use this, and I'll show you how to make the alpha channel that we're going to use. Okay? And there we go. I am back, and all of my teeth are filled in. Now we do need to get rid of this black outline, and that black outline is just our teeth layer here. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that. And when I do, you can see that some gaps do form in my teeth. That's perfectly fine. You can always fill those in by painting more on your tooth if you want to expand or whatever. Now I just want to take a quick look at the gum line and see how far down everything goes. I notice this tooth is right up against the wall, and this one is too. I don't want these to flatten off, so I'm going to grab my teeth and actually I'm going to grab my gum line. What I'll do is I'll just take a look at what the gum line looks like if it's above my teeth. And then I will select my gum color, and I will just try to round this out. Try to make the gums look a little bit healthier. Remember the gums come up and they kind of hug the tooth. So if I go into the picture here, and we look at our gums, the gums kind of come up and they wrap around the tooth. The tooth isn't on top of the gums. Okay? And I will grab my little erase tool here. And I will erase back a little bit just to expose some of the tooth. And this is just me being nitpicky on how I want the gum to look and how the tooth to look. Oops, that one's too far. And I'm doing this with a mouse. You guys, if you're using a stylus, you might have a little bit more precision. Now that I have this laid out, I will put some shadows on here. So on my layers, oh, don't forget to save your work. I'll go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so on my gums, I will just go ahead and double click on here, and I'll bring up my tab. Let's see what an inner shadow looks like. Bring that back some. There we go. That gives some shape around the teeth there. Bring my size up. So I set my distance to 0, and then I brought the choke down to 0, and I brought the size up. And that seems to give me a nice gum-looking sort of thing here. Now, if you want, you can go through and you can paint some different colors on here for highlights or shadowing or whichever. I'm not going to do that. This looks pretty good for here. And then for my teeth themselves, I will do the same thing. And I'll do another inner shadow. And that'll give me some curvature to my teeth. So if I bring my distance down to 0, I still have curvature, but I don't have as much depth. So I can play with size of my shadowing, and that'll round them off. But this is up to you. It's all about artistic desire. If I push the light out this way and bring my size down, whoops, it gives us the effect that, there's lighting, whichever. I'm going to have mine as if they're straight on, so I'm going to pull my depth back down to 0, and I will pull my size up to about 8. And that'll give me that. And I think I'm happy with that. I'll hit OK. So here are my teeth. I will save it once again. And now I'm going to go ahead and put this out on its own layer. So let me select all this stuff. I'm going to put it in a group. So I'll click on Group. I have an older version of Photoshop, so mine does not group automatically. I'll have to drag that in. And I'll just call this Teeth Group. I will duplicate that group, and then I will take the new group and I will just merge it. So this is a flat layer. Okay. With this layer selected, I will hold Control, and then I will click on the little picture on the layer. See right here next to the eyeball, there's a little picture. I'm going to hold Control and click on that, and it will go ahead and grab all of the active pixels. Then I'll hit Control and then C to copy. And I'll jump over to my channels. And in the channels tab here, I'm going to come down and create a new channel. This will be my alpha. And I'll just go ahead and paste. Okay. Control D to deselect. Now, there is a problem with my alpha, and that is the gums are showing up as gray, and that means they're going to be transparent. I don't want that to happen. So I need to flatten this entire thing off and make it solid. So I'm going to go to Images, or Image, Adjustments, Levels. Or you could hit Control L and that'll bring it up. And now what I'm going to do is just flatten these off. So I'm going to grab the white and I'm going to bring that up. Now if I go all the way up, this is a little bit too crisp. So I'm going to come down just a little bit to soften some of my edging. But what I don't want to see is any black on my gum line. So like if I pull this back some and you see this black outline around the gums, we don't want that because that will cause it to be transparent right here. White shows up as solid, black shows up as transparent. So I'm going to push that back up to about there so that I have a nice round shape for my teeth, but my gums and my teeth are solid. I'll hit OK. There's my alpha. I'll go back to layers. I'll select my teeth layer. I will once again save. And then I will save this out as a targa. So File, Save As, Texture Maps. This is my other tooth layer, so I'll say teeth underscore human teeth 2, that's fine. And then I want this to be a targa, so down here. Make sure you grab the format from the dropdown and that you don't just type in the letters here because it won't save the correct format that way. You want to make sure you use the format dropdown. I'll hit save. And since I have an alpha channel selected, it will be 32-bit. There we go. And now we're going to go over into Maya. Alright, so I'm back into Maya and I am inside the one with my model. And the reason I do it here is, well, I need to put the teeth in the model. So I'm going to make a new spot on my ground here, and I will hide this guy. So I do have him on his own layer, and I'll just hit hide that. I'll even hide the eyes. So I'm going to go up, I'm going to hit create, and I'm actually going to grab a cylinder. And you might be thinking, why a cylinder? First things first, I'm going to let's make this 100. I'll do 25. Yeah, that'll work. The reason I'm picking a cylinder is it's already curved. And that way I don't have to do anything fancy to make it curved. The height I will do 25. And you'll see what I'm going to be doing in just a second here. So here's my cylinder. And I'll keep my subdivisions at about 20 for this particular demonstration. I'm going to select this, and then I'm going to hit face mode, and I will remove all of this back stuff, like that. Now what I have to do is I'm going to duplicate this and do a couple different things. First things first, though, I'm going to take this, I'm going to go into my scaling tool, and I'm just going to scale this in about like that. And you can see that we already have like a mouth shape kind of taking place, the inside of a mouth. If we look here on the picture, this will work. We have a mouth shape, which is kind of like a half cylinder if you're looking at it from the top down. So there we go. And I'm going to use this for two different things. One, I'm going to use it to create my tongue, and two, I'm going to use it to create the top and bottom rows of my teeth. From here, I have this. I'm going to duplicate this. On the duplication, I'm going to remove, I'm going to the front view here. On the duplicate, I'm going to remove this front stuff here. So when I'm in face mode, I'm going to grab all the front planes, get rid of those. I'm going to select this bottom row, get rid of that. And now I have a piece that I can use to start working on my tongue. Over here, I'm going to remove this top section. So I go to face mode, I will just marquee select all the way through, and this will actually select both the top and the bottom. And I will cut that. So there's my mouth, or my teeth shape that I'm going to have, and here's the tongue shape that I'm going to have. I could have used, duplicate faces or whatever, but this was just quicker to do. With this selected, I'm now going to add my teeth on. So I'm going to go to rendering. I'm going to hit Lambert. Right click, go to material attributes. I'm going to call this teeth color. And I'll go ahead and find my teeth through my file. So I clicked on the little box there, go to file, and I'm going to go to my game design folder. Okay, here's my human teeth. Go ahead and add that on. And if you don't see it here, you can hit 6 on the keyboard, and it'll bring up your teeth. And you can see that I do have teeth, but I need to do something about my UVs. So I'm going to go up to the UV panel here, UV editor. And it's really hard to see, So I'm going to go right here. There's like a mountain with a picture kind of deal, or a picture with a mountain. I'm going to click the darker one. Now I can see my UVs. I'm going to go into UV mode. I'm going to select these, and I'm just going to go up to polygons and do an unfold. And then I will do polygons, and I'll do a layout. So that's almost what I wanted, but I wanted it to be rotated the other way. So let me go ahead and grab these again. I'm going to rotate and kind of stretch this across here. And all I'm going to do is place this over one set of my teeth. So I'm going to use this for my top row. I'm going to grab these back groups here, and I will pull those there. Now you can snap these by holding X and then dragging, and it'll snap to a grid line. I'll do that again for the front here. So there are some teeth. They are kind of big, but you can see them nice and cleanly along this plane. So there's that. So now that I have this, you can see I have my teeth. But there is one issue. This top row only represents half of the mouth on the left or right side. We could solve this by going into Photoshop and just mirroring this across. We could. I'm going to do a bit of a cheat in here, which is I'm going to split my UVs and then I'm going to stretch them. So on my mouth here, I'm going to find the center line, which is this one. And inside of my UV panel, I'm going to go up to polygons and I'll go to cut UV edge. With that selected, or with that done, I'm going to select one half. I'm going to move that off. And then this half, I'm going to center. And now I'm going to stretch that out. Since I'm a little OCD, I'm going to grab these and just snap them into place. So I'm going to hold X, snap. I will snap this there. And if you're wondering how far I'm going, I'm doing about every other group here. And the way that I did that is actually, I'm going to move this whole panel so you can kind of see a little better. So there's a grid box here. There's two grid boxes in between each set. And that gives me half my mouth. And I'll just do that again for over here. So I'm going to grab these ones on the end. And I will hold X and I'll just snap that way over here. Select these ones and I will snap them there. This one I'll snap to here. This to there. And this one to here. And this last group I'll just make sure that they're on the end here. Now this does cause overlapping UVs. That means that if you're going to do a light map for like a video game, you're going to want to separate these off on a separate panel. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to move this down. And then just to make sure that these are snapped on, grab these. And I'll go ahead and flip those. Okay, so there's some teeth. Now remember, we did create overlapping UVs here. So that means that we have two UV shells that are sitting right on top of each other. This will not work in a light map, so you will have to separate these off when you make your light map. But as far as sharing texture space, it's not that big of a deal. We do have this one problem here, which is, if I deselect, we have this seam. To get rid of that, I'm just going to pull these UV edges back. Now, if you really wanted to not have overlapping UV shells, let me grab UVs. You can always go into Photoshop and then duplicate your image over so that we have a full panoramic view of the mouth, kind of like this. So one half of the mouth here, one half of the mouth there, and just save it out. Since I'm already here, I will just continue on with what I have. But to get rid of that seam, I'm just going to pull these UVs over just a tad. Let's see what that does. Still have a little bit of a color gap. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to paint it in Photoshop. But I'll leave it for another time. It's just to paint that off or whichever. At the very edge of the image where it creates a shadow, I would just pink that off. Just make that solid pink. Okay. So there's my top teeth, and you can see that they're kind of stretched. And then I'll do the bottom teeth. So I'm going to grab these, hit Control D. I'll just move those off. Come back in here and I'll grab these teeth. Now remember, this is supposed to be the top layer, or the top set of teeth. And, oh sorry, this one is supposed to be the top and one's supposed to be the bottom. So I'll grab this, and then I'm just going to scale it down. So in my viewport, let me see, I'll grab my Y scale, drop this down to 0.3, and there we go. So there's my top row, and I just got to flip it over. Whoops. So, get my rotation. I'll just rotate it. It's 180 in Z. And now I'll set up my bottom row. So same deal, I have my teeth. Since we've already done the UVs, all we have to do is move them into position. So I'm going to grab these, and I will position them over the bottom teeth. I'm going to select this bottom row. I'll hold X and I will snap them to the grid. And I'll grab this top row and I'll hold X and I will snap them to a grid line. You don't have to snap, I'm just being precise. Okay. Come back, I'll grab these. And you can see that a similar thing happens on the bottom teeth. There's a bit of a gap here. So I'm going to grab the UVs on the side here. And I'm just going to pull those in to close that gap. And on these ones, it looks like it came out okay. That pink actually ended up hiding out. And the reason that worked out well is right here there's no shadow, but on the very edge there is a shadow. So on this one in Photoshop, you just go in right here where that shadow is and paint that out, and it would fix it. Grab this one, I'm going to rotate this 180. Oh, wrong direction. 180 in Z. And I'll set my Y scale to 0.3. there's my upper and lower mouth. I'll snap that back to 0. Get my upper mouth here. The lower jaw on a mouth is a little bit smaller or narrower than the upper jaw. So I'm going to grab this, and I'll hit my scale tool, and then I will grab the uniform scale. So you have the little one in the middle. I'll grab that and just scale it in some. So there we go. And now it's all about the tongue. So I'm going to grab the one for the tongue. Oh, don't forget to save. So with my tongue, I want this to be able to flex and fold. I'm going to go to top view. And all I'm going to do is make it so that this is bendable. Right now it's not. And the reason why is here along the center, there's nowhere to bend this. If I tried to bend it, it's like trying to bend a broomstick. You need to have subdivisions here. So the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to fix the subdivisions by connecting some lines across. So I'm going to delete what I don't want. So this edge, I'll delete it. I'll just go ahead and delete my edges off. I'll grab my multi-cut tool, and I will cut my edges in. And all I'm doing is going from this vertex straight across. This vertex straight across. This one straight across. So now I have all quads down the length of the tongue. And now if I want to bend the tongue or flex it, it should work. So if I go into my little side view here and I grab this group and I bend it, it'll bend and flex like a tongue. Okay? And that's going to be important to animate it later. So simple tongue. I'm not going to do any color work for the tongue, but we could color it in Photoshop. I'm just going to kind of paint it in here. So I'm going to drop on a Lambert, and I'll just call this tongue. And for the color, I'm just going to sample off of this pink. Maybe I'll lighten it up some. It's a little bit too red. This will work for our tongue. Let's go back to my channel box. I'll zero this out. So 0. And I will drop this to the floor. You can see that my pivot is beneath my tongue. I'm going to grab the Modify tool, or Modify tab, go down to Center Pivot. There we go. And now I can put this into the mouth. And it does sit with the bottom jaw, so I will position it wherever. And then I will just scale it to fit my needs. I'll do it from the top so I can see what I'm doing. And that'll work. Okay. So there is the simple mouth box. On the next video, I'm going to show you a very fast way to make a mouth that's not quite as detailed, but it's good for low poly. And this one actually works pretty well for low poly as well. A little bit more work because you have to make the teeth, but okay. So I'm going to save it here, and in the next video I'll show you the second way of doing this, and I'll be right back.